Hello, I'm Nikki.
And I'm Jess.
She's the traumatized.
And she's the abandoned.
And
welcome to our podcast,
where we talk about true crime, spooky things, and everything in between.
And today we're doing some true crime, and we're doing an exciting episode where we're switching it up a little bit, and we're talking about a very relevant topic in today's news, Gypsy Rose.
Might have been more relevant a couple months ago, but we're late to the party. It's
I
fine.
mean, I feel like we're
here.
always late to the party, so we're here now.
Fashionably late.
But you also get our reactions to her interviews that she's doing now, so maybe some new information. Definitely lots of discussion, because I think Nikki and I, we're kind of agreeing on certain things, but we definitely have differing views. Having dealt with mental abuse, not to the extent of like Munchausen's, like, but like knowing how it can affect your mental psyche, even to the point where I experienced it. Like, I give her a little more grace than I think Nikki does. So it'll be really interesting. I'm really excited. I'm so excited about this episode.
Perspectives are definitely different.
Very much so. But that's what makes us best friends, because we are able to discuss things and like figure out, and like I definitely respect the hell out of you. So like even like listening to your perspective on things, I'm like, no, that I could see that. Like I can understand why that makes sense. So
I think the only perspective we've argued seriously about is the mountains, but it's fine.
There are no mountains in Kentucky. There aren't. They're nice little hills. No, I'm just kidding. Also, we're switching it up a little bit to explain why she said welcome to our podcast and why it threw us. This is the first time we're doing it. We switched our recording a little bit with like, moving and everything like that. So we'd realized when we were editing, I was like, oh, you need to say stuff first now. And so it's going to be a little.
Yeah. Also on my screen, we're like not facing each other, but on your screen we are facing each other, so it's like a brand new thing.
It is a brand new podcast, really. I mean, this is our first episode. Actually, it's our 74th, which is actually insane.
And now we actively have a co-host with us, usually most times now.
Yep.
You hear her in the background. She is currently in my lap.
If you're watching, you might see a little blurred out little head on the bottom of her screen. That is a lovely
not
co-host.
A smudge on your screen. That is a purposely put blurb.
Blurb. Fun fact of the day.
Is that it?
Wait, no. How was your week? We're
it's
so
fine.
off.
Great.
Yeah, great. Fun. What'd you do?
Stuff.
Solid answer. I'm glad you did stuff.
Actually, yeah, no, we didn't do much, but the husband went and traded in his car, so we have a truck now.
I was gonna say you got a surprise last night. That was fun.
Yes,
it's pretty.
I'm happy about it though.
I know you hated that car. And it was definitely a good move for you guys. I'm excited for you.
It's just nice to have a truck. You know what I mean?
Yes, 100%. Like, so you remember a couple weeks ago, I had this like thing on my face where my nephew had scratched me, whatever. So my brother was watching my TikToks or my stream. I'm not quite sure. And he was like, "What's up with the drawn on beauty mark? You trying to like make a mole there?" And I was like, "No, that's where your son maimed me and it got infected." And he was like, "Oh," and I was like, "Yeah, no, that was a scab. That was like not pretty." He's like, "Oh, I thought you drew it on. I thought it was like a makeup choice." So for anybody who didn't catch that, it was not a makeup choice. It was.
Oh my gosh.
He was like, "What's up with the drawn on mole? Like, what is that, like a look you were going for?" And I was like, "No."
Oh no.
And
Yikes.
my sister-in-law was like, "Oh yeah, I remember you saying that." And I was like, "Yeah." I was like,
goodness gracious. That's funny.
It was funny. You ass, no. I don't draw them on for fun. Also, for people who are watching on YouTube, the sky outside does not know whether it wants to be sunny or cloudy. So if my light's randomly changing, just ignore it. We're accepting the light that God is giving us today. So it looks great right now, but in about 5 seconds, the clouds are going to come out and I'm going to look pale again. So you know what? We're just going with it. That's how my week's been. Just rolling with the punches. You want to hear about the fun fact of the day?
Fun fact of the day.
Fun fact of the day. Did you know that adult cats only meow to humans, not other cats?
So okay.
So their meows actually have special purposes. While adult cats communicate with each other using body language and other sounds, They exclusively reserve their adorable meows to humans. So next time one of your kittens is meowing at you, just know they're using their special little language to tell you they love you. Or they're hungry. Or they want something.
It's always one of the latter ones, not the
Yeah.
first one. So today is interesting because you're starting off a story.
I know.
So everything's backwards today,
Everything's
guys.
backwards. Everything's backwards. Basically, how we're going to break down is I'm going to be going over Gypsy's history and, you know, the story about how Dee Dee, all that good stuff, go into the details of it. And then Nikki's going to take over. We'll basically pick up where I left off and then talk about the new stuff. It's going to be really interesting because
talk about after prison life.
Yeah.
It's happening right now. And kind of, I also put in there a little bit of the social media frenzy that's happening.
Yeah, because it's definitely
happened.
a frenzy right now.
So,
all right, buckle up. We're going in.
Buckle in.
Now, honestly, this is probably, there were only a couple things that I learned new. So, you know, for anybody who's not in the know of Gypsy's upbringing, this will definitely be crazy and possibly slightly triggering for abuse. But I feel like a lot of people already know what happened. So just bear with me. Maybe you'll learn something. But definitely the second part of this podcast is going to be intense. So Gypsy was born in Louisiana. She was raised solely by her mother, who was known by friends and family as Dee Dee. According to Rod Blanchard, who was Gypsy's father, who did eventually leave and remarry, by the time Gypsy was 3 months old, Dee Dee was convinced that Gypsy had sleep apnea and began taking her to the hospital, where repeated overnight stays with a sleep monitor and other tests found no signs of the condition. However, she convinced the doctors that she did have sleep apnea, and she was eventually put on a sleep machine, which is like a CPAP. We'll go into a little later. Dee Dee subsequently became convinced that her daughter had a wide range of health issues, which she attributed to an unspecified chromosomal disorder. At some point, Dee Dee claimed that Gypsy also had a muscular dystrophy and had to use a walker as a child, which I can't.
That's crazy.
Gypsy said that by the time she was 7 or 8, she was riding on her grandfather's motorcycle when they were involved in a minor accident where she suffered an abrasion on her knee.
An abrasion?
On her knee. Dee Dee said that the doctors had given Gypsy a wheelchair that she would now have to use. So that's why she got put in the wheelchair eventually.
Because of an abrasion?
On her knee.
That makes no sense.
So she's in a wheelchair. Dee Dee was then convinced something else was wrong. There was always something else that would pop up. Dee Dee then met with her extended family and told them that her and her daughter, told them that her daughter had a chromosomal disorder, muscular dystrophy, meaning that her range of motions was limited and she would have to now use the wheelchair for the rest of her life.
That just doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't at all. Gypsy seems to stop going to school around the 2nd grade, possibly as early as kindergarten. Neither one, there's not really a whole lot of data. Gypsy thought when she was interviewed later, she was like, it may have been 2nd grade, it may have been earlier, so she wasn't sure. Her mother did start homeschooling her after that, supposedly because her illness was so severe that she couldn't go to school anymore. And obviously now we know this was later to be an attempt to isolate her. She couldn't go to school anymore. A little fun fact, Gypsy actually claims she managed to learn to read on her own through Harry Potter books. So shout out to the Harry Potter books. Apparently her brain damage that she suffered from being a premature baby.
She wasn't though, was she?
Left her at a mental capacity of a 7-year-old.
That's not how that works. What?
Yep. So that's why she was mentally challenged because of her brain damage.
Was she a premature?
We don't know.
Oh.
There's no.
But that doesn't usually correlate unless the baby died or
a couple, like a lack of oxygen or something, but we don't know. I think what's really just forefront, again, everybody basically already knows this. So Dee Dee had Munchausen's. So obviously none of these, and there's no medical records, and we'll go into that too. So we don't know. We don't know what actually.
It's just all hearsay, speculation.
Literally all. And at this point, it's looking at what said, through interviews and now what Gypsy can remember. So that's basically all we got going on right now.
Right.
So again, more health issues just keep popping up. This is where it just gets, Gypsy Road apparently needed a feeding tube because when she was younger, she had her saliva glands removed because she was choking on her saliva. She also suffered from leukemia. She was diagnosed with epilepsy and prescribed a drug, and that drug made her teeth weak. Paired with a lack of saliva glands, this caused her teeth to literally rot, and she eventually had to have a majority of her teeth removed.
That's so crazy.
She was also hearing and vision impaired, resulting on her to have to rely on glasses and hearing aids. The combination of all these illnesses led Gypsy Rose to live an incredibly difficult life, as one can imagine. The remaining illnesses required constant large amounts of medication, surgery, treatment, and then sometimes treatment for that treatment. So she required around-the-clock care. This also, though, led to various forms of charity and philanthropy dedicated to Gypsy's cause. This also, helped Dee Dee as well.
Right, because she's a stay-at-home mom at this point. Her child is so sick. She can't
taken care of.
work.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Dee Dee often clashed with her family over her daughter's care, which I'm glad. But they clashed so hard one night, Dee Dee and Gypsy just literally disappeared. Left no forwarding address, just left.
Can you imagine how scary that was for the family?
No, because something's wrong.
Yeah, like you're getting suspicious of a little girl being hurt and then she's gone.
She's just gone. Dee Dee and Gypsy moved from Louisiana to Missouri, where Dee Dee became known as a paragon of virtue, caring for and homeschooling her sick daughter, whom she claimed was developmentally challenged, again, due to the brain damage.
Well, this just shows you how well you can just go somewhere else and just
reset
yourself.
Life.
Yeah, that's crazy.
At first, Dee Dee and Gypsy lived in a rented home in Aurora in southwestern Missouri. During their time there, Gypsy was honored by the Olay Foundation, which advocates for the rights of feeding tube recipients, as its 2007 Child of the Year. In 2008, Habitat for Humanity built them a small home with a wheelchair ramp and a hot tub as a part of a larger project on the north side of Springfield, the east, and they moved there.
It was pink, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
They made it pink.
Yeah, for her. It was Gypsy's favorite color.
I hate pink. Sorry. Not related, but I don't like the color pink usually.
I mean, I don't either. So the story of a single mother with a severely disabled daughter forced to flee Katrina's devastation received considerable local media attention, and the community often pitched to help the woman, who now went by Claudinia Blanchard.
Wait, what was she going by?
Her nickname was Dee Dee. She just always went by Dee Dee, but now she's putting Claudinia on everything, literally trying to reinvent herself.
What was she before?
I think that was actually her name, but she
never used it.
Yeah, but now she's like actually using it. For example, my mom's name has always been Rebecca Chrisanne. I'm not gonna say the last name. So but her entire life she went by Christy. Her entire life.
Oh.
She always went by Christy. She got divorced, remarried, now goes by Becca.
What?
Everyone calls her Becca now.
Who?
My mom.
No.
Went from Christy to Rebecca. And now Becca.
What?
True story.
No.
My brother.
What?
His entire life went by Andrew because his name was Joseph Andrew. So he always went by Andrew. When he hit 18, he was like, I don't want that. I want to be Joseph now. So now everyone calls him Joe and Joseph. Like, this is a thing in my family. So I wonder. So yeah, I mean, I can understand her like reinventing what she wants people to call her and stuff. And so yeah. Okay, this is crazy. Dee Dee would actually set up an outdoor cinema at their Habitat house and charge people either $1 or $5.
No, stop.
Just come on in. Yeah, no, freaking wild. In the summer
and nobody had a red flag at that.
No, I don't get it. She's like this pillar of, whatever. And she just was trying to raise money for Gypsy.
I don't know. That's kind of weird though.
I know. We know the signs.
Okay.
They did not, I guess.
Okay.
I mean, but also like your first thought when you see somebody as sick as Gypsy, like, is not like, oh, she's faking it. Why would anybody put their child through that to fake it to get money?
Yeah.
Obviously, we know that she had some mental issues. So, but that's not your first thought. Your first thought isn't like, oh, they're faking it, you know?
Right.
So in the summer of 2009, Children's Mercy Hospital and Clinics published a story featuring the reunion of Dee, Gypsy, and Dr. Robert Beckerman after a coincidental appointment at the Comprehensive Sleep Disorders Center, because apparently, remember, she still has sleep apnea.
Okay.
The pair appeared on local TV shows. Dee Dee leveraged kindness from strangers and charities. They were given several trips to Walt Disney World. They were giving tickets to see a Miranda Lambert concert. And actually, fun fact about that, did you know Miranda Lambert would actually send Dee Dee a series of checks to help her daughter, totaling around $6,000.
Oh, yikes.
Yep. Anywho, so at this point, there's so much tension. So what do? We go back to the hospital. Dee Dee claimed that Gypsy Rose was suffering from seizures, asthma, was again hearing and visually impaired. She went through a litany of surgeries, including procedures on her eyes, again, removal of the saliva glands. Her teeth were pulled out. Like, I have such a traumatic experience. I still cannot go to the dentist because my teeth roots were like, they were like, well, you're not losing. I think honestly I lost maybe 2 or 3 teeth naturally. Like, they just would not come out. Yeah, they wouldn't push out, so they would go around them. So I had to have so many teeth pulled at the dentist. Like, I will always and forever just have such a fear of the dentist. They
didn't like knock you out as like a kid.
No,
I feel like they should have knocked you out.
They brought these big ass fucking needles that numbed you, and then you hear them ripping it out, dude. Like, and it traumatized me as a kid. So I mean, and again, that's another thing. I think I really resonate with her as a child. And so mine was
at least put like headphones or something on you for like,
yeah, no.
What was back then? Walkmans? No, you're not that old.
Yeah, right.
I mean, portable CD players. That's what I had.
I think portable CD players came out when I was a little older. I don't know. All I know is I specifically remember the fucking building. I remember the building. I don't remember where it is. I remember walking up to the building and knowing my life was ending.
One day you're just gonna be driving in your hometown and see it and have a complete panic attack. 100%.
I'll be like, why am I so scared of this building? Like, it's childhood trauma. But no, like, so that's something I really resonate with Gypsy here, because I just the and it was completely avoidable. It's just my heart break. Here's the thing, teaser. My heart breaks for the child. I don't know how I feel about the adult. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
My heart breaks for her because of this. The truth started to come out that this young girl could actually walk.
The truth started to reveal itself to her.
That's a great way to put that. Yes. So she didn't need a feeding tube. She didn't have cancer. The only reason why her head was bald is because her mother would shave it. Literally, her mother would shave her head. Do you know how traumatizing that? Just if you take any one of these instances, it's traumatizing.
Alone, it's traumatizing.
Imagine having to live your life not enjoying food. Like having to get shit pushed in you through a feeding tube, which is another surgery, by the way. She had to get like eye exams. She had to get all of her teeth pulled. She had to like get her head shaved. She never had hair, guys. Like, it's different when you're losing your hair for cancer, and I get it. But even then it's traumatizing. But imagine being a child. Anyway. Medical tests often showed inconclusive or contradictory results regarding Gypsy Rose's diagnosis. Weird. But if this happened, Dee Dee would actually stop seeing that doctor who questioned any of her daughter's illnesses.
Just stop going. And then the doctor wouldn't question that?
Nope. Dee Dee actually had some nurse training too, which I didn't realize. So she could accurately describe symptoms, and sometimes she would actually give Gypsy medication to mimic certain conditions. For example, why she got her saliva glands removed. She kept choking on her saliva. Do you know why?
I do, but
she would put fucking numbing cream in her mouth, which would show her. Then she would go to the doctor and she would be drooling all over herself, because if you've ever had anything numbed before, you can't move your mouth. And so she would be like, oh no, like we have to get her saliva glands removed because she's drooling all over herself. And they would fucking do it.
I feel like, first of all, she had to have like given her medication to make her high as well. Second of all, that had to be some straight up some nice numbing cream, because the Oradil you get from the freaking store lasts like 2 seconds.
Okay, hear me out though. Hear me out. So we're thinking, you got to think late 90s, early 2000s meds, because they were different. It was different back then. Like I remember some cough medicine that I took that I would not cough anymore for the rest of the night. And I don't know what the hell was in it, but you can't find it nowadays. So
nowadays it takes you 2 months to get over a cold.
Yeah,
I'm living proof.
That's because you have children.
And try every single different kind of medication you see on the counter.
Yeah. But I mean, I think it was just different back then. But also, it's known that she would steal doctor scripts. So maybe it was a prescription numbing gel.
That's just crazy.
Yeah. Anywho, I'm getting ahead of myself here.
Right. Where were we?
So Rod Blanchard, throwing it back to the dad real quick. All this time, Dee Dee's saying he's a deadbeat. We don't talk about him. He's nothing. Did you know that he would actually make monthly child supports of $1,200?
I didn't know it was that much. I remember from some of the shows that I watched, he said, I can't be married to you because I'm too young to be married, is basically what he said. But like, I'll take care of you and Gypsy. Like, I'll always take care of you guys. And he did.
And he would send Gypsy gifts. He would occasionally talk to her on the phone, but there's evidence that he would send a monthly child support payment. And Gypsy had no idea. Gypsy thought
my mom got $200.
That's it.
But yeah, my mom got $200 for me a month.
I feel like if she would have taken him to court, she could have gotten more. Anyway, so like Gypsy was raised, one, not knowing her dad really, and knowing that he was a deadbeat, but really he was not. Another really interesting thing that I thought was definitely worth mentioning, apparently he called her on her 18th birthday wanting to wish her a happy birthday. He would call her on her birthdays.
Right.
Speculation, hearsay. I think he actually really wanted to be more involved in his child's life. Dee Dee would not allow it because Dee Dee didn't want anybody near her to really know. Because I think if you actually spent time with her, you would realize that something ain't right. So,
and I mean, if you watch Eddie and / all the documentaries he's in, you can tell he wanted to be a part of her life. And yeah.
So he calls on her 18th birthday. He told the interviewer that I watched that Dee Dee did not want him to tell her her real age because she thought she was 14.
Why would she think that?
Because that's what Dee Dee told her. And she has everyone convinced that she has a mind of a 7-year-old.
Yeah.
Imagine that mental fuck. Honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you, you take one of these things that she went through, it's going to fuck you up as a human. Because if you are like thinking, okay, I'm 14 years old, I could still eat off the kids menu. And then one day you find something and you're like, wait, I'm actually born in 1991. I'm 18. What? I can't even comprehend how much that would fuck me up as a kid.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
also, I don't think you can eat off the kids menu at age 14.
Shut up.
I think it's more like 10.
Okay, but she probably could because people felt bad for her, okay?
True.
Oh my God, it's crazy.
Yeah, no, that's super fucked up.
Once she turned 18, she was a legal adult. So Dee Dee then had to basically get her to sign over, not power of attorney. Was it power of attorney? She basically had to give Dee Dee full permission to take over her mental care or her physical care because she was 18. And she basically ended up tricking Gypsy into doing that.
Do we think that's true or
what? Gypsy just did it right. I mean, it is true. Like there is documentation. She did have to sign over because once she's 18, she could refuse treatment. Gypsy could.
Knowing Dee Dee, she could have just forged the signature.
That's true.
You know what I mean? She had no issues forging that kind of stuff. So
many people who met Gypsy Rose were just absolutely charmed by her. 5 foot tall, nearly toothless now. Large glasses, high childlike voice reinforced the perception that she had all these problems that her mother claimed she did. So Dee Dee would regularly shave Gypsy's head to mimic the hairless appearance of a chemotherapy patient, allegedly telling her daughter that since her medication would eventually cause her hair to fall out, it would be best to shave it in advance.
But still, that doesn't chemo, like your eyebrows fall out, like everything falls out. And like a shaved head looks different than like a cancer head.
I mean, she would often wear wigs or hats flats to cover her baldness. So I don't know if people would really kind of look at it and be like, oh, that doesn't look like a chemo head. You know what I mean? Like, again, nobody's really looking close enough to question who the fuck is going to lie about their child having fucking cancer.
Child cancer is like so scary.
Oh my God. Like
at our school we had like, I think at the time he was in kindergarten, he was diagnosed with cancer, and like our whole town was like heartbroken and like,
I mean, it's awful.
Raised money and everything. Like he survived it. I think he's doing great now, but
amazing.
Like
it's so scary.
So scary.
It's so scary. It's one of those things. I mean, cancer fucking sucks. Fuck cancer. Just fuck cancer. It's not good when anybody gets it, but it's especially heartbreaking when child or an animal, because they're just so pure. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where I don't understand. I don't understand why that's a thing. Like children and animals, that should just never, that shouldn't be a thing. No. Anyway, we're way off topic. When they would leave the house, Dee Dee would bring an oxygen tank because of her sleep apnea.
That's not how that works. I have sleep apnea.
And a feeding tube with them. Gypsy Rose was fed children's liquid nutrition supplement Pediasure until she was well into her 20s.
Pediasure, like the shit you get at the Walmart? Pedialyte? Like, or is it like...
Pediasure is, I think it's like almost like a formula.
Oh, like a formula.
Which is crazy because you usually like ingest it. Another side thing, Dee Dee was convinced that she had a sugar allergy and she had gotten sugar. So Dee Dee flipped off. She injected her with this thing that you give, EpiPen. Took her to the emergency room because took her to the emergency room because she was having an allergic reaction to sugar.
That can kill you. Injecting an EpiPen without having an allergic reaction can kill you, literally.
She was not doing well when she got to the emergency room. I wonder why. So they got her stabilized. It was very scary for Dee Dee. She didn't think Gypsy was going to survive. That's why I don't know how she did, honestly, through all this. But anyway, so she was explaining, like, she was saying she's allergic to sugar, and then the doctor is like, okay, what does she eat on a daily basis? How does she get nutrition? Pediasure. And the doctor's like,
that's just...
You know how much sugar is in Pediasure? She's like, no, she's allergic to sugar. And doctor's like, but you just said she's Pediasure. You just said that she's taking Pediasure. Dee Dee's like, no, she's allergic to sugar. She's allergic to sugar. And then she just runs off, basically ignoring the doctor, and goes to Gypsy, who is again in recovery. Now, Gypsy overhears this, and this is where she really starts to, because she had already noticed, and I might be getting ahead of myself, but she had already noticed that she could walk,
obviously,
because she would get up at night and walk around. And especially while she was getting older, you know, you as an adult, your mind starts to like develop. So she knew she could walk, and now she knows. She's been told that she's been allergic to this her entire life, been stabbed with EpiPens. I don't even know how many times. I just know of this one occurrence, but mom had EpiPens all around the house and gone through this. And now she's like, but wait, if I'm eating sugar as my daily supplement.
That's so crazy to me, the whole EpiPen thing. Like, she could literally die.
Again, she was on anti-seizure medication. You know how strong anti-seizure medication is and the actual side effects that it can have. It made her teeth rot out of her face. Like, anyway. In 2007, Dr. Fernando Flasterstein, who was a pediatric neurologist.
Okay.
Dee Dee brings Gypsy in Springfield.
There's no way she's paying these medical bills, right?
Oh, fuck no. Absolutely not. No. But she is putting up GoFundMes almost monthly to help pay for those bills.
But she's not paying them.
No, she's not.
Crazy.
So Dr. Flasterson looks at Gypsy, looks at her legs, and is like, something ain't right. So at this point, Gypsy's 16, still in a wheelchair, right?
Okay, because like you look at a person
who actually has muscular atrophy, all you see are like bones, basically. It's bones. Like there's no muscles.
Because there's no movement. You're not moving, you're not.
I mean, muscular dystrophy is actually the dissolving of muscle tissue. That is what it is. So if you have muscular dystrophy, you have no muscle. She does.
And you can clearly see.
So he ordered MRIs and blood tests and found no abnormalities. Nothing is wrong with her.
Wow.
He goes and tells Dee Dee on a follow-up visit, I don't see any reason why she is not walking.
In front of Gypsy or just in front of Dee Dee?
I don't know if it was in front of her. I don't feel like it's not in front of her. Yeah, because I feel like, Dee Dee was also very cautious about what Gypsy heard. And
right. That's gotta be so exhausting all the time.
Oh, yeah. It was so exhausting taking care of such a sick daughter. So tired all the time.
No, I meant exhausting keeping your lies straight and tracking what can be said, not be said. Like,
and she fucked up. Flasterson actually noted that Dee Dee was not a good historian, like in his report. Like, I don't know if you've seen that report, but in his report, he says Dee Dee is not a good historian. After contacting Gypsy's doctors in New Orleans, he actually learned that her original muscular biopsy had come back negative, undermining Dee Dee's reported diagnosis of muscular dystrophy, as well as her claim that all of her records had been destroyed by Katrina.
Wow.
He suspected the possibility of the fictitious disorder imposed on another. So he was the one that really kind of came out that she would have Munchausen's by proxy. Dee Dee contrived to gain access to Flasterson's notes and subsequently stopped taking Gypsy to see him.
Wonder why.
What is wild to me is Flasterson did not follow up by reporting Dee Dee to social services.
Why not?
He said that other doctors had told him to treat the pair with golden gloves and doubted the authorities would believe him anyway.
I mean, this is like when this was kind of like a new thing.
Right.
People weren't really looking for this because who's gonna, hurt their own child?
I've literally said it all this entire podcast. Who's actually gonna go out of the way to hurt their child? Like, this isn't something that happens. But in 2009, an anonymous caller told the police about Dee Dee's use of different names, birth dates for herself and her daughter, and suggested that Gypsy was in much better health than claimed.
Do we know who that was or no?
It was anonymous.
No, it's just anonymous.
But it is suggested that it would have been one of Gypsy's doctors. I don't think it was Flasterson, but because they stopped going to see him. This was 2 years after, but I do think it was a doctor.
Okay.
Officers who performed the resulting wellness check accepted Dee Dee's explanation that she used misinformation to make it harder for her abusive ex-husband to find them, without confirming this to Rod, and then reported that Gypsy seemed genuinely mentally disabled, so the file was closed. Here's the thing. I feel like Dee Dee's murder was entirely preventable if the doctors had actually made more of a deal about this. Like, literally one physician had noted that Dee Dee wasn't a good historian, actually suspected that she suffered from Munchausen's by proxy. When Dee Dee got note of that, she promptly changed doctors. But like, she successfully duped new doctors by claiming that Gypsy Rose's medical history was lost and her vast medical vocabulary gave her an air of credibility. Like, and I mean, on one hand, like, there is an ethical dilemma practitioners face of accusing Dee Dee of suffering from Munchausen's, because again, who would do that? Who would make up all this shit to hurt their daughter? And the family was so well known by the community and embraced by the community. So not only are you like suspecting that the mom's crazy, but you're also going against like an entire community. So
there's also a case where it went to the extreme the other way. I don't know if you've heard about this case recently. They just settled in court with the hospital, or not settled in court, but they won their court case against the hospital. Their daughter had like this rare nerve disease or pain or whatever. And they went to a bunch of different specialists. Finally, a specialist in Mexico City basically would give her horse tranquilizer to like, that was the only thing that would get rid of the pain. So when the mother brought her to like an emergency room and said like, this is what she needs, this is what she needs, this is what her doctor has been giving her, they thought it was Munchausen by proxy, whatever, and they seized the daughter for like 3 months or something. Like they seized her for an amount of time. The hospital like just took custody of her and kept her, and then the mother ended up taking her life. So they just not settled in court, but they just won their court case against the hospital because they were wrong, basically.
No, I didn't hear about that. That's crazy. Wow.
So I think there is like a very fine line that doctors kind of have to like
balance
on.
Yeah, for sure. By this time in this discussion, you guys already know. Gypsy Rose is entirely healthy. Well, not entirely. All of the shit that she's been given is causing her illnesses, but the baseline, she's healthy. She would later, so Dee Dee, obviously not in her life, but afterwards, she would be diagnosed with Munchausen's by proxy. All Gypsy wanted was a normal, healthy life.
Mm-hmm.
She just wanted her freedom. Her mother did not allow her to have these rights. She would physically abuse her. So we're not even talking about mental abuse. We're not even talking about mental abuse. And I'm sorry, but having someone have not needed surgery on their eyes is physical abuse. Like,
oh yeah,
she is receiving
all of that. It's physical abuse.
Not only are these surgery, she would actually physically abuse her by like hitting her, tying her up if she expressed any desires or went against her will.
That's crazy.
Multiple different types of physical abuse, mental abuse. She would report symptoms. So basically Munchausen's by proxy, if you guys don't know what that is, she would report symptoms and illnesses that Gypsy Rose would have that she would actually never experience, but she would force her daughter to undergo relentless invasive surgeries, treatments for literally no reason at all, making her look and feel more sickly than she was just to satisfy her dysfunctional desires of feeling important.
Right.
Of being in the spotlight. As you can imagine, being the victim of a parent with Munchausen's by proxy can be extremely traumatic, as their lives are filled with medical abuse from 3 months old. Her abuse started. She was forced to use a wheelchair. She had her salivary glands surgically removed. She took medication that would make her severely ill and then renounce eating orally in favor of a feeding tube. So the medication would make her throw up. So her mom's like, oh, you can't eat. Every time you eat, you throw up. So let me get you a feeding tube. That's why she got her feeding tube, because she was on so much medication. It was making her nauseous and throw up. So her mom was like, oh, you're throwing up because you can't take food. So I'm just going to insert a feeding tube into your stomach. So her trauma ultimately became too much, leading her to believe that extreme measures were the only way she could free herself from the abuse. And this is a quote. There are certain illnesses that I knew I didn't have. I knew that I didn't need a feeding tube. I knew that I could eat, and I knew that I could walk. But I did believe my mother when she said I had leukemia, because I was taking lots of medications, and mom said they were for cancer, and she would shave my head off and said it's going to fall out anyway. We might as well keep it nice and neat. So
wow.
even though she knew she could eat, and she still thought she had some, you know what I mean? So
like, yeah, okay.
Dee Dee also seemed to have at least one forged copy of Gypsy's birth certificate, where she changed her birth date to 1995 to bolster claims that she was still a teenager. Gypsy later said in the interview that for 14 years, she did not know of her real age.
Wow.
Dee Dee also claimed that the original had been destroyed in the post-Katrina flooding. However, she did keep another copy with Gypsy's real birth date on it. So she had a copy of her real birth date, but the original had gotten destroyed. So there was at least a fake copy of the original, but the original had gotten destroyed. But there was no flooding. It's the thing. All right. So this is where it kind of...
Did they ever actually live in New Orleans? Or...
Yes, they were. Well, they were in Louisiana. I don't know if they were in New Orleans. I think there was flooding for Katrina. I don't know if they were actually in New Orleans. I think they were outside of it. Gypsy actually recalled seeing her original birth certificate during one of the hospital visits and was obviously confused. Dee Dee had told her it was a misprint and then got it fixed.
Okay.
So, all right. Gypsy Rose had attended science fiction and fantasy conventions since 2001, sometimes in costume, since she said that was the only time she could feel normal was when everyone else was in costume and she could be in costume. But at a 2011 event, so just for people who are keeping track, she was 20 at the time. She made what may have been an escape attempt that ended when her mother found her in a hotel room with a man she had met online.
Oh, okay.
In 2011, she tried to escape. She said she made it right to out of town, and then her mother found her. Again, Dee Dee actually brought the birth certificate with her with the later birthday and threatened to inform the police because according to the birth certificate, she was either 16 or 17, but really she was 21. With her fake birth certificate, she was 4 years younger. So the guy freaked out. It's like, oh, I'm going to get labeled as a pedophile because she's under 18.
Right.
Gypsy recalls afterwards Dee Dee smashed her computer with a hammer and threatened to do the same with her fingers if she ever tried to escape again. This is also when she then leashed and handcuffed Gypsy to the bed for 2 weeks after she escaped. Dee Dee actually then told her that she had filed paperwork with the police claiming that she was mentally incompetent, leading her to believe that if she ever attempted to go to the police for help, they would not believe her.
That's so messed up.
Apparently, shortly after being freed from the bed, Gypsy had unsuccessfully attempted to escape the house again. Now, this is hearsay.
Okay.
But apparently she tried to shoot her mother with a BB gun, which she actually thought was a real gun, but it wasn't.
Why did they have a BB gun?
It wasn't hers, it was a neighbor's. But basically she stole the BB gun, tried to shoot her mother and escape. I don't know if you want to believe it, but that was from Gypsy.
Okay.
In February 2012, police were called because Dee Dee and Gypsy had been caught shoplifting arts and crafts items worth $21.53.
Why?
From a Hobby Lobby. The items were hidden in the wheelchair under her legs. Dee Dee then told the police that they had returned from Disneyland and were planning to make a scrapbook. Dee Dee said that they had no real intention to steal. It was a mistake and they had forgot to put the items back. They were, again, underneath her legs in the wheelchair. Forgot they were there.
What the heck?
Yeah. But of course they believed him. So they let him go. So sometime around 2012, Gypsy, who continued to use the internet after her mother had gone to bed to avoid her tightened supervision, finally made contact with a gentleman named Nicholas Godejohn, a man around her age from Big Bend, Wisconsin, whom she had said that she met on a Christian Singles website. Now, again, Gypsy started to realize how actually, like, what her actual, she knew she was older than 18. It just, you know, you start to know.
Right.
So now she says later on that when she turned 20, she actually started to share explicit images of herself online because she said it made her feel good about herself, especially when people would comment on them, which don't do that. Don't do that. But I can understand having been raised as a child for more than 20 years, stuck in a wheelchair, never feeling attractive, never feeling sexy as a woman, I can understand the draw to do that. I can understand why she would do that. So Nicholas also had a criminal record at this time. His criminal record was for indecent exposure, and he also had a history of mental illness, sometimes reported as dissociative identity disorder, and he was also on the autism spectrum disorder.
I don't think he was ever actually diagnosed with DID.
Dissociative.
Yeah, but
sometimes reported.
Yeah.
In 2014, Gypsy confided to a 23-year-old neighbor, Aaliyah Woodmansey, who was unaware that Gypsy Rose was actually closer in her own age, but she considered herself a big sister to Gypsy, but really Gypsy was like her age.
Yeah.
That she and Nick had discussed eloping, had even chosen names for her potential children. Gypsy,
yikes.
I didn't know this part either. Gypsy apparently had over 5 Facebook accounts and used them to talk to men, get attention that she had always wanted. No, she always pictured these pretty girls. She just wanted to be pretty. She just wanted to be seen. Her and Nick started a friendship online. It quickly became a flirtatious one, and then it quickly became a relationship one. They also would use BDSM elements, which she had claimed that he was actually more interested in, but she kind of went with it because she wanted to make him happy. Now, her neighbor did try to talk her out of it, still thinking, obviously, she's too young for this. Maybe taken advantage of by a sexual predator because, again, according to her neighbor, she's child mind-like. And why are you talking to a stranger online? You know, like there could be a child predator, sexual predator. She considered Gypsy's plans as just fantasies, dreams, nothing in the world would ever really happen. This would ever really take place. Like, this is just a fantasy. Despite Dee Dee's efforts to prevent her from using the internet, again, she would go as far as destroying her daughter's phone, her daughter's laptop. If she ever found anything that would give Gypsy a way to talk to the real world, she'd destroy it. Gypsy actually maintained contact with Nick. The next year, she decided that it was time for her and Nick to meet in real person and for Nick to meet her mother in Springfield. So she arranged and paid for Nick to basically come down. Her plan was for him to casually just bump into her while she and Dee Dee were at the movie theater. Now, both of them were to be in costume and apparently strike up a conversation because they were both in costume. And so that was going to be the introduction. That was going to be her way of introducing. As soon as they did meet in person for the first time, March 2015, when Gypsy, along with her mother, went to go watch Cinderella, the meeting didn't go as planned because they're both extremely socially awkward. And obviously, Dee Dee is very protective. So get away, strange man. Go away. Nick said Gypsy led him into a bathroom with a handicap stall where the two of them had consensual sex. This is disputed by Gypsy, who had stated that they actually did not have sex, but Nick had pulled out his member and he was unable to get it to be active.
That's how you want to phrase that? Okay.
He was unable to activate it. I don't know.
That's what
kind of,
she said. That's her most recent telling of that story.
I don't know if it's the most recent, but that was what was noted when she was asked about it. I don't know if it was like, I don't know if she's commented about it more recently. Maybe that was like the last thing I heard. So the two continue their interactions online after this, and this is where things start to get murdery. After receiving some stolen money that Gypsy had taken from her mom, which theoretically was hers too, but she had sent the money to Nick in the mail. Nick plans a trip to return to Springfield in June 2015. The plan was for him to arrive while Gypsy and her mom were at the ER to have the feeding tube replaced. Again, no need for a feeding tube, but literally she had a feeding tube inserted in her abdomen. After they returned home and Dee Dee had gone to sleep, Nick made his way to the Blanchard household. Gypsy let him in and alleged gave him duct tape, gloves, and a knife with the understanding that he would use it to murder Dee Dee. Now, he said, she said literally in this about who actually planned what, you know, I know we're going to go.
It's all in messages.
Well, we're definitely going to go into it because I think a lot of it was manipulation by Gypsy, because I don't think Nick was mentally capable of making these decisions on his own. Like, I don't think he would have gone out of his way to murder anybody ever. But I think with the right pushing, he did. I'm kind of just like try to stick to the facts of it, not
right.
Again, allegedly, Gypsy hid in the bathroom, covered her ears so she wouldn't have to hear her mother screaming. Nick then stabbed Dee 17 times in the back while she was sleeping. So this is another he said, she said. Apparently, Nick said that the two again had sex consensually in Gypsy's room, and that also she had performed fellatio on him. So they were just getting it on. I guess, I don't know if it was like a way of congratulations. I don't fucking know. I don't know. But Gypsy says allegedly that Nick had sexually assaulted her, so there was no consensual. Basically, she alleged that Nick told her he would sexually assault her because she didn't allow him to sexually assault Dee Dee before the murder, as he had previously fantasized about.
I'm sorry, I don't think that's true at all. I'm just going to insert my opinion right there.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true at all.
Again, a screwed up thing here. Gypsy then states that she had called out for help from her deceased mother during the assault. I don't know. And again, you're right. She could be lying about that to paint a picture of how shitty Nick was. They took $4,000 in cash that Dee Dee had been keeping in the house, mostly from Rod's child support checks. They fled to a motel outside of Springfield where they stayed a few days. During that time, they were seen on security cameras at many stores. Gypsy said at this point she believed they had gotten away with their crime because nobody had said anything. They went to get on the train and realized they still had the murder weapon on them. They decided to mail the murder weapon back to Nicholas's home in Wisconsin to avoid being caught with it, and then hopped on the bus. So several witnesses who saw the pair on their way to the Greyhound station noted that Gypsy wore a wig and walked unassisted. So she's just walking. Anyway.
Around.
So basically, the couple then arrives at Nick's home, which he did live with his mother and I believe stepfather. They were there for a couple days. Still nothing in the news about Dee Dee. And honestly, I feel like Gypsy started feeling guilty like the moment it happened.
Yeah.
But I think it really got to her that nobody had found her and she just didn't want her mom dying and rotting there, which again doesn't make any fucking sense to me. So they were like, oh, let's make a Facebook post saying the bitch is dead. And at that point, I don't understand the logic behind it where they're like, oh, let's do a Facebook post. Basically, Gypsy was like, I want to figure out a way to let people know to go check on my mom. And their bright idea was, let's post on Facebook that the bitch is dead. I feel like there are so many instances. I know where you stand, Gypsy's super manipulative, but I also know that that's all she knew. And there's decisions that were made that were just fucking stupid. And I don't think she knew better. I genuinely don't think she knew better.
Right.
Because all she knew growing up was manipulation. So that was just a second nature to her. I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying that's what the norm was. So you sit there and you grow up in that and you're like, okay, manipulation is what I use to get what I want. But also like she was dumb about it. She left She left messages asking him to murder. I feel like if she really wanted to just pin it on him, and she wouldn't have had, I think if she was mentally capable of truly forcing this man to kill for her, she wouldn't have left so many like blaring blaring evidence. I don't think she knew better. I think she was scared and forced into it. But anyway.
To be continued. Don't forget to come back for part 2, where we discuss the arrests, the trials, and the social media frenzy that has occurred due to Gypsy's recent release. Until next time, bye!